Hi, dear listeners. Welcome to this new episode of my podcast, A Digital Tomorrow. I'm joined by Efi Pylarinou today. I have this huge pleasure. Efi, as you know, is a global FinTech influencer, so I'm sure you all know her, but well, just in case, welcome, Efi.
Thank you very much, Oriol, and thank you. I mean, the pronunciation of my last name was perfect, as if you are a native Greek. That's really you win an award for that. It's
Thank
not
you.
easy.
Well, I studied ancient Greek when I was in high school, but I don't know, maybe I
Yeah.
still remember some of that.
Yeah. Well, I often when I'm in an outdoor place and I speak Greek, people ask me, "Are you Spanish?" I don't know if it's the music of the language, although I'm obviously able to distinguish, but yeah, it's like that.
Mm,
So Greek, Spanish, fintech, digital, we can talk all that together, right?
Yes, yes, many things to discuss. Well, actually, I mean, I've been following you, Efi, on LinkedIn and on all social media for a few years. I can remember 5, 6 at least since I started to get more involved in fintech. And actually, last year as well, you invited me to be part of your podcast where we discussed the digital yuan, CBDCs in Asia. And well, now you're coming today to my podcast. So, without further ado, I would like to start, first of all, by you introducing yourself, right? Because I'm sure that everyone will know you already, but just in case, so if you could please share with my audience what you do, because you do very important things in the fintech scene.
Thank you, Ariel. I mean, I've been on a journey that started back in New York at the tip of Manhattan in the World Trade Center, 7 World Trade Center. That was my first job at Salomon Brothers. Lots of companies of that era, important companies, don't exist anymore. They've been acquired, renamed, absorbed. There's been a lot of consolidation in our sector. And when I say our sector, I'm always referring to the broad financial sector. I was nurtured and grown in sales and trading, in investment banking. Others have come from retail and consumer banking. Others have come from the payments space, insurance. There's a lot. Our sector is very omnipresent, I would say, or really, because if you think of it, it's behind any economic activity, and that will never change, despite the technological advancements. This will never change. It will be behind any economic activity, and in that sense, I feel that professionals in different businesses should really be watching what's happening in innovation in financial services, because that will affect them. So my journey, as I said, was very traditional, but I would say that the time that I started, innovation was happening in the sector by people joining the big financial services providers and innovating within the companies. That has changed. We're talking kind of 30 years ago. It changed because of democratization of information. It changed because of technology that became cheaper and better. It changed with fintech that unbundled a lot of services and made it more accessible. Now we have everything as an offering, SaaS, so to speak.
Mhm.
Anything that you can imagine in financial services, that didn't exist, when I joined the industry. And now we are in the phase of rebundling. And I decided back in 2015, as I was reinventing myself,
Mhm.
to focus on innovation in financial services. And that's how my journey to today started, by focusing on that and really watching innovations. And now I work with brands either in creating content around FinTech insights and trends, or taking a few select advisory roles to help, especially incumbents, keep up with what is going on, make sense. Because there's a lot of information, we all know it out there, but how do you make sense of it and what to do with it? So that's my journey. And it involves content creation, it involves advisory and consulting. And also I do a lot of speaking and writing. I hope we have the opportunity to talk about the new book that I'm a co-author in.
Yes, actually, I was going to ask you now, Efi, about your book, because you told me that you co-authored a book. So what's it about, and when is it going to be released?
Yes, so the book now is a Wiley book. It's on pre-order. It will be physically available in the end of May. And the book is on the topic of what we call the fast future blur, and it is looking at the opportunities at the interconnections of advanced technologies that are shaping our future and socioeconomic trends. So think of the future of work, the future of mobility. Those are big socioeconomic trends. And then we have advanced technologies like AI, like blockchain, like augmented and virtual reality. And all those are not sort of acting and shaping our future in isolation. So in this book, we have decided to look at the opportunities that are at the intersections of these socioeconomic and technological trends. But why? Because we believe that at these intersections that we call blurs, because they're not clear yet, and they're like, you know, industry blurs that we are all accustomed to, or blurs between remote work and physical work. So physical boundary blurs, all these are happening. And it's important for leaders to identify them early and make decisions on them, because they will be the ones that will gain and shape the future. So specifically, I and my co-author in this book, we have 6 intersections that we discuss. We discuss about what it means to think like an AI native business. So we take the thinking of what it means to be a digitally native business, which we all understand by now, but it's taken us 20 years to understand it, really. And going forward, what does it mean to think like an AI native business? Because we don't have any of those right now. We just have businesses that are using AI tools, AI services, but they're not really AI native. So I'm excited about that. And of course, that touches not only financial services, that touches all sorts of businesses.
Well, thank you for sharing. It sounds like a very interesting book. I'm looking forward to reading that. And now that you mentioned artificial intelligence, I wanted to talk a bit about generative AI, because I mean, it's very trendy nowadays. Everyone talks about it, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on Gen AI, right? How you think it can change, especially the financial services sector. I mean, I know it is already changing it, but change will be bigger in the future for sure. So what are your thoughts on this? And I also wanted to make mention to something you wrote. I think in your Medium page, you wrote an article once about talking about the energy consumption of generative AI, that you, if I'm not mistaken, you said something about everyone talked about how much energy Bitcoin consumed, but not many people talk about Gen AI. So in general, I wanted to hear your thoughts about all these areas.
Yeah. I think, you know, this shows that it's what the big media, and actually the traditional big media, it's what they choose to sort of highlight. And we all know that over the past couple of years, they have been relentlessly beating up Bitcoiners and the crypto space about the energy consumption of Bitcoin. And of course, you know, Ethereum transitioned to proof of stake. So it was really only Bitcoin that was in the focus, while we all know that Bitcoin then, and even today, although it has, you know, we're out of the crypto winter, definitely its market capitalization has grown a lot, but it's still very small as a, however you want to look at it. You want to look at it as an asset class, as a commodity, as whatever you want to look at it, it's very small compared to other traditional sectors. But still, nobody talks about generative AI and all these large language models and all these GPUs that are needed to train these models, and the energy consumption, which is mind-boggling. And why is that? Because the main media is choosing to focus on all the excitement around generative AI or the hallucinations. It sells more, I guess. That's the reason. And it's very interesting, you know, this week as we record, there's the NVIDIA GTC conference going on in California as we speak. And I had the opportunity yesterday to attend a session online, a very interesting session that the CEO of NVIDIA, right, Jensen Huang, was the moderator, and he had invited, I can't remember the exact number, but it was probably 6 panelists. These are all people, engineers that have been working on what we now recognize the transformer model, right? So they're all machine learning type of experts. Today, a lot of them are CEOs of companies like Cohere, like Companion AI, and so on. So you get the picture. So these guys are the panelists, and they're talking about how it all started, why they named the transformer model transformer, and on and on and on. What was remarkable was that they themselves talked about what they're working on now and what they're excited about. And of course, they talked about the inefficiencies of the current model because they consume too much energy. And the great example that they brought up is the following. Whether you ask, you know, ChatGPT, figuratively speaking, or any of those, whether you ask them a complex question, like, I don't know, compare the 5 top global banks by assets and tell me which one is more advanced in their digital journey and why. That's a complex question, right? Whether you ask that or you ask the question, can you add 2 + 2 + 5 + 674, right? It's going to consume a lot of energy. And what they want to do, the engineers, is that arithmetic question. There's no need to run a large language model. You can find it through a calculator. So the model needs to make that decision. Can't make it today, right? So it's not smart enough to know when to use the large language model, the token approach, and when not. So I say that because it's early days, the tech is inefficient, clearly. And I would say that we need to pace our excitement. We already see productivity gains, right, in areas, especially in financial services, tangibly there are a couple of banks that have deployed generative AI solutions in their contact centers, and they have seen huge efficiencies. And also they have seen empowerment of their employees that are responding and are able to gain fast knowledge and personalize their customer service in a way that they were unable before. So we're seeing that in financial services. We are seeing use cases in investment research. So training large language models on specific knowledge libraries, like what Bloomberg is doing, right? Bloomberg has a lot of data, a lot of insights. It's training its own model. And then there's others like Morningstar, like Moody's. They're training and offering generative AI services to their clients, because now their clients that are institutional mainly can have these conversational interactions with them, with the knowledge library of Moody's or Morningstar that they couldn't have before. So we're seeing these improvements, but at the same time, there's a lot of concerns about the data security, about the hallucinations, and so on. So the excitement is tempered, and you know, we're going to have regulation and so on. So I say that it is correct, and I'm totally in agreement about the fact that these advancements of AI, let's call it the generative AI revolution, it's a general purpose technology. And what does that mean? It means not only that it's going to be used broadly in all industries and broadly in financial services, so in all the aspects of financial services, the customer facing, internally, let's call it the middle, and in the back end with engineers, the coders, the IT, and so on. So it's very broad in our industry and cross industry. The second qualification to call it a general purpose technology is the fact that it is evolving fast, and it is, right? And the third is that it's got this aspect of what the economists call combinatorial innovation. So this technology, GenAI, can be combined with other technology stacks to create something new. And I say, Oriol, that this is the key aspect, the last one. And we don't know yet. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen the strategic significance of this technology in businesses, meaning how does it change the business model in general from a strategic perspective. We're just seeing productivity and efficiency gains. So I'm excited about that, but let's ground ourselves and wait to see that. Will it happen in financial services before it happens elsewhere? Who knows? You know, it's to be seen. We're excited. We're watching, right?
Indeed. No, I like your approach very much, and I concur. I mean, this idea of kind of like leveraging the pros and cons of Gen AI, right? I mean, some people talk about this hype, but as you said, there are also things that need to be worked on or solved before being able to affirm, to state that it's actually going to change the productivity models, etc. So I think in that sense, it makes perfect sense what you said. And kind of related to that, I wanted to ask you about the current fintech trends. We talked about generative AI, of course, but given that you covered like the whole of the fintech spectrum, which other trends are you observing now in 2024 that you think are worth mentioning and analyzing?
In my sort of filing system, of my head, if you want. I think of three major areas that are evolving in financial innovation. One has to do with what is going on with mobile money and wallets. And I'm thinking global, right? These two areas that are very broad. Okay, mobile money, of course, is relevant in emerging markets, but there's a lot of innovation that we can learn about from them. And then wallets, there's all sorts of wallets. And again, in different jurisdictions, there's different deployment and different innovation happening through wallets. And all these, of course, are enabled through open banking and through technological innovation, basically APIs, right? The evolution of APIs. So that's one area that I watch, and it touches on a lot of financial services aspects. It touches on payments, it touches on credit, all types of credit. It also touches on wealth, less so, but I would say payments and credit is the big one for now. Then the other area that I'm very passionate about, and it's trending in my mind, not a hype, is what we call embedded fintech and embedded finance. So again, how are we creating new services or new businesses by combining different stacks of fintech, through SaaS offerings, or combining fintech offerings with non-financial services businesses, be it in travel, be it in hospitality, be it in the automotive industry, you name it. And this trend has started. We see a lot of it, especially in payments, embedding payments, embedding wallets, but it's growing a lot, but it will take time because we have to sort of explain and collaboratively figure out the value that is in for the businesses. So, you know, if you put out an offering, banking as a service, and how do businesses like, as I said, an automotive business, or I don't know, an apparel business, how do they figure out what is in for them? It's not only about improving their customer experience with offering them just more payment options. It's about how do you keep your client, your customer more happy, a better customer experience. It might be about increasing revenues. I mean, in marketplaces, we're seeing a lot of embedded finance examples, like Shopify, like Square, and so on. But we're going to be seeing more. And the third area that is in my radar is what I would call anything around the new digital assets, new infrastructure from the blockchain space, and more, I would call it, completely different native infrastructure. Again, and there, you know, we can think of stable coins, CBDCs, the wallets, the native wallets in the crypto space, NFTs, all those tokenization of assets and so on. And again, here we have native providers, but also there's a part of embedded finance that goes on there when you have companies like Nike creating native wallets for their digital fashion, business and what goes on there. You need payments. You might need eventually to see these assets as collateral and therefore offer loans and so on. So those are the three. They look sort of like disconnected, but they're very much connected, right? Some areas are loosely now connected, and the evolution is how do you integrate them, right? And it's a bit like the unbundling that happened in classic fintech, and now we're in the rebundling phase, and now there's more. And we don't call it, unbundling, you could call blockchain, it's new infrastructure, right? And it can be blockchain, or it can be the other exciting infrastructures, the DPIs, the digital public infrastructures, the ones that India and Brazil have launched, and where domestically we have seen huge ecosystems being built on those infrastructures. And now, especially India is starting to export that infrastructure. So there's a lot going on at the infrastructure level and at the customer experience level, and then kind of in the middle. So yeah, those are the areas.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that after listening to you, Efi, even those people who may not know much about fintech will realize that this whole fintech area is actually very wide, because we started talking about generative AI, but then you mentioned all these new areas, right? Digital assets, embedded finance. So, which, as you said, they are to some extent intertwined. So I think it's easy to realize, even if you're not a fintech expert, that there's like so much about it. And you mentioned like many other words or areas that could actually like involve like many hours of discussion, because we talked about wallets, then we could talk as well about financial inclusion, CBDCs, stable coins. So I mean, there's like so much to discuss here. I mean, of course, there's not enough time on our podcast to do so, but before wrapping up, I wanted to ask you a short question. In case someone who listens to me wants to learn more about fintech, aside, of course, from following you, your LinkedIn, your Medium page, what would you suggest to this person? How could this person like try to keep up to date? Because we know that this world changes like pretty much overnight. So what would you suggest to anyone willing to learn more about all these areas that you mentioned now?
You know, there's different resources, if you want. The way the sector has grown, it really depends on where you want to focus. You can choose to focus on payments, for example, because it is a huge area. It affects financial inclusion, you know, the big space of remittances, but also businesses, how business is done, supply chains, everything, trading, I mean, goods and services. It touches on that. There are experts, deep experts in this area of payments, but then again, it varies by region, because payments are completely different in Asia than in Europe, for example, and emerging markets, you know, Africa, payments are completely different than the US and Latin America and so on. So it's difficult, unless you need to have some regional focus if you want to go a little bit deeper, or an area focus. For example, I'm more focused on capital markets. So these changes at the level of central bank digital currencies, stable coins, but also investments, tokenization of investments, or investment research and wealth and so on. What innovations are there and how they interact. I would say that it really depends on that area to guide people in the direction of, there's a lot of reports, annual reports that help in this area around payments or around looking at the global landscape of wealth tech innovation or open banking innovation. So yeah, I would say it's broad, and as you said, it's also moving a lot.
Thank you very much, Efi, for coming to my podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.